Hi guys, it's Blackie for Shaman's Forge Bushcraft. One of my subscribers brought up a point that I need to kind of respond to, and I wanted to make a video about it. And what it concerns is in the Colt percussion models, the wedge. What is the purpose of the wedge and how it should fit? Now, what the subscriber had done was he commented on how I had used my flash to tap it home and how he had taken his and polished it where it was very easy to go in and out. That's fine. But you got to understand that that wedge that holds the barrel serves a very complex purpose. It's not just simply a thing sitting there. It has to hold forward and backward tension and keep it a snug fit. Not just snug, a friction fit. Because over time in the firing of the gun, when you fire, the energy is transferred to the barrel, and the barrel wants to go away from the action. That stretches a little. And so that back and forth eventually opens up that slot a couple of thousandths. If the wedge is nice and just easy, pop it in and out with your fingers at the bottom end, the wedge starts falling out eventually. Now, what Colt designed to try to counter that was he incorporated something. Let me show you what that is. Okay, on my 61 Stormborn right here, there's a screw directly above the wedge. Now, this is supposed to sit inside the channel of the wedge so that when the spring comes out, it hooks that and it cannot be removed from the barrel. Now on the other side, if you look real close, you see there's a little bitty spring inside of it. And this is supposed to act like a hand that locks up to the frame and keeps it from coming out. Unfortunately, on many of these replicas, if you just take your thumb and press, the wedge just comes clean out. It's a little off in geometry. And with this one, that's the way it was from the factory. That spring that you can see right there doesn't have enough lip on it to hook the inside of the frame right there and thus stay in position. It's supposed to be where you pull it out, and you can't get it out this way until you take that screw out. But as you can see, it just pops out. And if I just put it in there, you know, like finger tight like that, one pop, any kind of friction of it, and it would just fall out. Firing can cause it to come out, and then upon the next firing, there goes the barrel. It'll leave the gun. This rarely damages the weapon, but it's kind of embarrassing when you go bang and your barrel flies about 10 yards out there and you got a handful. So I will eventually get a new wedge and fit it so that this lip sticks up more. Now, as an example of proper fitting, I have this old one from the 70s I've showed you in my videos. And this one, whenever you take the wedge out of it, and you can't hardly ever do it with thumb pressure because it is so snug, and this has been fired since the 70s, it's in there. And so you need a little something soft to tap it out. I use a clothespin or sometimes a little wooden dowel or something, just lightly tap it. Plus the spring is so hooked on it, it hooks. And so when I pull it out, click, it stays stuck in the frame. That was what Colt intended. That was what Colt intended. He wanted that hook to keep that from being lost, because remember what this was a military weapon, and it was a cavalry type weapon. So you're at a galloping horse and everything's jostling around. If you had to take the gun apart to put in another cylinder, for whatever reason, fouled out nipples or whatever, many of them did carry extra cylinders in a bag or something. It was not a super fast reload like a Remington, but it could be done. That wedge could be just whacked with the base of a knife, and if you look at many originals, they're battered a little bit from that. It would come out and you go click and it would lock in the frame right there. And you could snatch it off, stick it in your armpit, change barrels, come back. If that wedge falls out, you don't have a functioning gun. So, the purpose of that wedge is threefold. Hold the entire assembly together. 2, resist the forward stress upon firing to keep the barrel from exiting. 3, as the frame stretches, the taper of the wedge should go in deeper to keep it a friction fit over the long-term firing of the gun. Otherwise, if it was real loose at the beginning, 500 or 1,000 rounds down, it's too loose. And if this is too loose, the barrel can actually slide forward and your cylinder gap starts increasing, which you get more blow-by, more wear. You see the point. It has to stay rigid and solid in the same position. And so it's a friction fit. It should tap in there and have a little bit room more to go. Initially, when you get a gun, it should just clear just the edge a little bit, like thickness of a nickel. Just enough that little hand of the spring locks to the frame. Sometimes you can take a real small pointed tool and lift that spring up a little, because in the manufacturing process today, many of the replicas are kind of sloppy. It's just there. It's not really springy. It's stuck in the down position, and that's the way this one is. I've stuck a probe in there and lifted it up a little, but it should move as a leaf spring. What can correct that? Just get another wedge. Dixie Gun Works manufacturers will sell you a wedge that hasn't been fitted yet. You're going to have to take a little off the sides usually to get it to go in there. How do you fit a wedge? You're going to take the brand new wedge and you're going to see if it fits the opening. If the opening is too tight, then you're going to modify the wedge. The wedge is the expendable part here because these are easily replaced. This bevel here at the top, you will round it a little bit more so it will start into the opening. You may have to plane the sides. Now what I would recommend doing is laying it flat on a sheet of sandpaper and running 10 or so strokes per side. This is hardened, so it's not going to do easy, so don't worry about it. Take 5 or 10, 15 hard, fast strokes and then take it and try to slide it in. This taper that it's designed for, wedge shape, it's a wedge, should finally bottom out, tick, 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 and you want that spring right there to hook the frame if at all possible. You can, like I said, see how I've taken a probe and gone under there and lifted it up? You can lift it up even more so, like that. I don't know of anybody that makes a replacement wedge, a replacement spring for a wedge, just replace the whole thing. But you can see there's a little key lock right there that somehow this is put in and then that's driven in to pinch into that spring. I suppose you could take a small piece of tip of a toothpick and put down there to act like a fulcrum and hold on it. But this spring, see this, I can just push it down and it stays down. I can pull it up and it stays up. It's not really a spring. I hope this helps, guys. In a proper fitting one, I wouldn't be able to pull this out without taking that screw out. And what I have to do now is put her in. I take my thumbnail and hook that spring on the back side and just lift it up where it hooks the edge. I had a 1851 Navy many years ago that had a loose wedge in it. And I was in a canoe and we had pulled up on a sandbar and there was a target and someone made a bet that I couldn't hit the target, and so I brought it up, and upon firing the barrel exited the frame and went out in the river. Bloop. I had a frame and a barrel, frame and a cylinder and no barrel, and it took quite a while for me to get a replacement barrel for it. I hope this gives you some insight, guys. Please leave any question or comments. I'm Blackie for Shaman's Forge Bushcraft, wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.